Here is everything you need to know about O3, O4 Mini, and GPT 4.1 as an entrepreneur. We had a big week this week, and it's only Wednesday that OpenAI announced the GPT 4.1 series models on Monday, and now today, the release of the O3 and O4 Mini models. I'm going to show you what these models can and can't do so you understand how and why you should be leveraging them as an entrepreneur. I think what we all want to know is when this new model comes out, how is it going to actually impact my business? So these new O series models are not going to be great at something like creative writing, but they are very good at these agentic tasks that require some kind of reasoning and with tool use. And so by tool use, what that means is giving the model access to be able to use some certain kind of tool programmatically. And so that tool could be a web browsing feature. That tool could be a document retrieval to look up something from some documents you give it. It could be a code environment for it to be able to write its own code and run programs on its own. It could be access to some of your customer data. It could be access to some of the other software that you use, like your project management system, your customer support tickets. So I'm going to start with the O3 and O4 mini models here. And these are reasoning models, meaning that they're able to think for a little bit before they respond. We heard about O3 first at the end of last year in December when OpenAI showed that this is going to be coming in the future and showed some benchmarks of what its performance looked like. And where people were a little bit hesitant then is when they noticed the cost for running it in order to get that performance. There were numbers like spending $1,000 per task, I think. If you thought about that as a business owner, unless you're involved in like a math or science research field, then the idea of spending $1,000 to run that model once to solve the problem didn't really make sense for most people. O3 is not only better and similar to those early numbers that they shared, but it is much, much cheaper and is actually cheaper than the old O1 model. So when we look at these benchmarks for the new O series models, we can see that when it comes to things like math and code, they're just getting really, really good. But where I think this is interesting for a business where maybe you're not involved in math and coding is the way that these models now work. So I'm going to show you here that we had the ability to have these models think before. They would kind of write out their thoughts in order to come up with a better and more accurate answer before they responded to you. Now, the O3 and O4 mini models can think with tools. And this is really powerful because they're not just, imagine like yourself, if you're thinking, if you just had to think about something, it's like, well, you could think about it a long time, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to get the right answer if you don't have the way to get that answer. So if you're able to search the internet, if you're able to use a program, if you're able to look at a picture, then that's going to help you in order to actually form and reason on that answer to get the right answer. OpenAI gave this example here of the O3 model now not only able to look at an image, but to actually zoom in and pan around that image to be able to find the details and look more closely at what might be important for that particular problem. What I think this is illustrating is, if you haven't believed it already, that AI agents are really coming. They're not a gimmick. They're not some kind of thing that people just talk about. They are really coming, and this is a kind of proof of how much better that they're getting. I think there's going to be a lot of workflows that are unlocked with these new models that maybe weren't really possible or weren't very reliable before. And like, I've been doing this for a while. I built one of the first production AI agents, first autonomous coach with Heights AI. Back then it was GPT-4 and GPT 3.5. And when GPT-4 came out, it finally made that kind of possible. Before that, it was like, well, that would be nice, but there's no way that's going to work. And even then, only very simplistic workflows were possible and only very like short workflows. Now it's getting to the point that you can imagine, how am I going to have this AI kind of work as an ongoing employee on my business? Not for something that's only these very small little tasks that you wish you could automate, but also for bigger and more important things as well. So we also got the 4.1 mini series models on Monday. And now these are not available in ChatGPT, but they are available for a developer to use or build an application with. And what is interesting about these in particular is they're not reasoning models. They are the regular like GPT series models, but they are the first models from OpenAI that have a 1 million token context window. And so by comparison, the original GPT 3.5 could see 4,000 tokens. So a token is about 4 characters of text. And the current GPT-4o is 128,000 if you're using it as a developer. In ChatGPT, it's limited to about 32,000. Now, with this GPT 4.1, it goes all the way up to 1 million. And OpenAI is not the first model company to have a context window this long. Google has models with context windows this long. However, what was really nice here is seeing the ability for the model to actually pay attention to the tokens over that long context. Because you probably have experienced a couple times where you give a lot of information to AI, you give it a bunch of different instructions, and somehow it forgets one of those things. And it's not because you gave it too much that it didn't fit in the context. It's just, it didn't pay attention to whatever instruction that you gave it. And it appears now from GPT 4.1 with the scores that they're showing here, that it does much, much better at following instructions and this multi-step reasoning over that long context. And one example that they have here, referred to as like the haystack test, is the idea of if there is an answer hidden inside a long bunch of context, can the model still find that and locate it and pick it out? And GPT 4.1 was 100% successful at doing that over the entire 1 million token context. And we haven't seen models able to do that before. From what I'm aware, there would always be some kind of drop off that, oh, well, if you give it 500,000 tokens, then it starts dropping off 50% of the time or something like that. But this is still not the be all end all of reasoning, because that's just picking out one detail. It's still important for the model to be able to see one detail and then jump over to another detail and connect things together in order to actually give you the correct answer sometimes. And so that's not going to be perfect, but that is also much improved here as well. This is something that I think is going to work really well for coding models and things like that. And also in like agentic use for building an AI agent that has to keep memory of a longer context over time. So these new reasoning models are beyond PhD level in things like math and science and coding. It was described that OpenAI and some others believe that these are the first models that might be able to make novel scientific progress even on their own. And so I think that's really exciting, but they're also not perfect. And what I would want to have you consider that if you want to be able to leverage a better AI as soon as it's available, let's say tomorrow, OpenAI or whatever other AI company suddenly releases the best model ever and it just can basically do anything, then you're not going to be able to be in a position to leverage that unless you start building something now. The reason for that is if that new model comes out tomorrow and can do everything, it doesn't know about your processes, it doesn't know how you do things in your business, and it doesn't know how to access the tools that you have. So when you build something now and start to document those processes, explain how you do something, why you do something, and then connect some kind of AI system to the tools that you're actually using day to day, then you can be in a position to actually leverage that AI as soon as a better AI becomes available. It's pretty easy nowadays for developers to build these mini integrations for themselves to be able to give the model access to all these different tools. And that is still something that you have to build on your own. You can't just say to ChatGPT, hey, go connect to this now for me. You still have to at least ask it how to build the integration for you to connect it. But that is where all the power is. And so ChatGPT is the first step, but we need to get away from thinking, okay, I'm going to use ChatGPT, that's my AI, and thinking, how can I have an army of thousands of AIs that are doing everything that I need and that are able to access all the tools that my business uses? To give an example of how easy it's becoming to use AI in your business, this is an application that I built just a couple of days ago. It took me about 15 minutes to build the thing with just ChatGPT. I didn't look at any code at all. And it is running here in my web browser as this whiteboard app. And so I can go here and I can drag around the different site pages. I can connect them. I can add notes to them. I can change the status. I can add new ones. I can zoom in and out. And I built this specifically for figuring out with my marketing team of how we were going to plan to make some new pages on our website. And I realized, well, yeah, I could use a whiteboard tool like ClickUp or Miro or something like that. But I thought, okay, it's going to be a pain to try to get the data that we have and put it all in there. And I got to copy and paste a bunch of things. And so it was actually easier for me to just build a whole new whiteboard app just for the specific purpose of what we had to do here. And I'll show you how that actually looked. So I used the Canvas feature in ChatGPT, and then I was using the O1 model because O3 wasn't out yet. I wrote out this message. It gave me a kind of like initial version. I pasted in some of the pages that we have, and I got this initial version from ChatGPT, and then I just followed up with it and told it the new features that I wanted to add. I said, okay, I want to make sure that the canvas is a little bit gray, and let's put a dot pattern in the background. And then let's add statuses for these different pages and a zoom in and zoom out button. And I just went through. It took about 6 or 7 messages, and that was it. Now I have this application. It even allows me to import and export the data so it's saved, and I can share it with my teammates. So I really believe that beginning to use AI in your business more is one of the highest leverage things that you can do right now. In fact, I am now building my own AI coding agent for my business. And there's other tools out there, but they're not doing exactly what I need, and they're not providing that end-to-end workflow for me, which I want to have. And it's so crazy how good that this is getting that I'm just doing this myself, not funding this with a bunch of developers or something like that. And I'm just building it myself, and it's pretty much working, that we're able to basically get a bug report from a customer. Our customer service goes and talks with them a little bit, figures out what it is, and then all we have to do is add a tag of bug to that support ticket, and then it's automatically, a bug report is written in our project management system. That report is now taken, and then AI goes and figures out how to fix it, and then actually fixes it all on its own. And so now for us, there's like hundreds of these little tasks, little bugs, little small improvements that we wanted to make to my software business. And now AI is just going to do that for us. If you are a creative entrepreneur and you want to learn more about AI tools you could be using in your business, we've built a free AI tools guide. It's got a list of tools, it's got prompts, it's got custom GPTs that we've built and recommend, and it is completely free. I'll put a link to that down in the description. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about how to use AI in your business, please remember to like and subscribe.